I'm going to show you guys a little bit about setting forms for concrete. If you've never done it before, maybe you're somewhere where you can't have nobody to show you or whatever. Well, get yourself a nice 4-foot level. Check your forms, make sure everything's level. If you want it to run off a little bit, then make sure it's running off whatever you want. You use your level. So if you want it to run off, say, if you want it to run off to the slope down that way, you just take your level and you lift it up, or whatever, make sure, and then level it out right there, say, and then you go ahead and figure out how many inches you want it to run off. So if you want it 1 inch from on every 8 feet or every 2 feet or whatever, you use your 4-foot level because it's 4 feet long, and you figure out how much runoff you want. Yeah, if you're going to do that, this I want level. So and since this ground was off level, luckily I have that thing to help me out. You can dig it by hand, no problem, but go ahead and put your start using some fill dirt. But when you put your fill dirt in, if you notice, this is still kind of muddy because I keep on putting fill dirt in, and then I'll put the hose and water it down really good, soak it, and that will help compact the dirt. So then after you get all that set, then what you do is you start putting your fill dirt in so that you have it however thick you want it. If you want it 3.5 inches. The other thing people make a lot of mistakes on is how many stakes you put in. Make sure you put a lot of stakes in. So this might not be quite enough for this slab. That's over 2 feet on center. Probably ought to have another one there, maybe a couple more here to hold the forms up, because the concrete itself is really heavy, and when you finally get to pouring it, if you don't have enough stakes in the ground, when you go to pour it, that concrete slams up against those forms a little bit, and it'll bust the forms open, and then you'll be having problems when you're trying to pour, and that's not the time to have problems. So the next thing I'll do now is, once I got my form set like this, then I'll go ahead and that one there, I should have a 2x4 at the end so that I can run my edge piece on there, but I'm not really worried about that. I'll just use the 2x6, and what I'll do is I'll just go up to it with my what's it called, I don't know, your rake or whatever, and then make sure that it's straight across when I get it done. I'm just using wood I had laying around. So let's look at the next step. So this wood is a little bit bent, so I'm going to get a different one I got. You notice it's kind of bowed down a little bit. So, but what you'll do with another piece of wood, it got driven over or something. This was from another job I was doing here. What you do is you take a piece of wood like that and rake it along the top, and then what you do is you can use a tape measure or just eye it a little bit to make sure that you're at your proper thickness, whatever that's going to be. If it's 4 or 6 inches, 3.5 is how thick one of these is. So I still need quite a bit of dirt in here. So then you just start putting more dirt in until you get it filled up, and then keep wetting that down. And it takes a few days to let it soak in, and then compact it. You can buy a compactor or rent one and use that if you want, but if you just soak it down with water and do it this way, it helps too. It does the same thing. So a couple pointers on setting those forms, getting it ready for concrete. And this is going to be a little foundation for small, like a storage building. So, and to me, if I if I have to do too much work, the concrete's cheaper. So get an extra yard of concrete, $60. If it takes me a whole day to backfill with dirt, or $80 or whatever for a load of concrete, 100, I don't know, depends on where you're at. It's a lot cheaper than it is to go ahead and start filling this back in with dirt. So sometimes you have to kind of weigh that out, figure out whether you just pour it extra thick or you leave it the way it is. or keep putting dirt in. All right, so anyway, that's how you do concrete at your house. Couple of settings on forms. You also use these duplex nails like this. They look like that. And number 6s are really good to use because they don't split as much. Number 8s are okay, but I just happen to have some number 8s, so I'm using those. Number 6s are better because they don't split the stakes as much. So kind of keep that in mind. And then use those duplex nails because you need to pull them back out when you finally do your concrete, when you actually pour it in there. So, and I'll use one of these boards when I'm pouring it in to rake the concrete along, so make sure I'm pouring it in level. But I won't use that one because it's got a split in it. So, but anyway, that kind of gives you a heads up on how to set those forms and get it ready for concrete. Talk to you in the next video.